It's not just one president, but it's all of them when it comes to So basically, if you're going to run for president, you're going to have to extremely know that a lot of the presidents, the approval ratings are up and down, and being the president is highly unpopular, and stuff like that. So that's that. But President Biden is getting an awful lot of advice these days, and this happens whenever a president's approval ratings drops, and members of his party start to panic about what about where it might go to. It seems to be a congenital order for Democrats in particular, as Republicans are more adept at keeping their heads down and barreling over the rough political terrain. Now, Biden's approval ratings are averaging in the low to mid 40s, where Trump was mirrored throughout his squadancy. I don't recall the Republicans publicly wringing their hands over that fact, but then the Trump squadancy was so overwhelmed with scandal and corruption that there was literally no time to worry about such ordinary political concerns. But every day seems like a survivable test, but Biden is a standard issue president, and his low numbers have become a focus of the media, so therefore it's a fucking crisis. And I'm sure the administration is frustrated by this, since by all objective standards, they've accomplished a great deal in just 10 months' time that they've been in office, considering the fact that they took office with a floundering economy, a once-in-a-century pandemic at its peak, and on the heels of an attempted coup. It's even more impressive that they were handed a giant fucking mess. And they've done a lot. They've initiated the biggest vaccination campaign in history. All in all, it's been massively successful, despite the large fraction of anti-science holdouts who have kept the virus going by refusing to get vaccinated. But it's not over yet, and people are still dying in large numbers. But a whole lot of Americans feel a lot safer today than they did a year ago. The Democrats have passed two gigantic pieces of legislation. The first of which was the American Rescue Plan. It has revived the economy at an astonishing pace, and rapidly helping to bring down unemployment and raise wages. They are still dealing with the fallout from the global pandemic with the disrupted supply chains and pent-up demand, which has sparked inflation, putting a damper on people's perception of the recovery. But there is an expectation that these are just temporary hiccups, as the markets evidently believe that since they have been soaring, the supply chain problems are already easing. But with the narrowest possible majorities, they also managed to pass a big infrastructure bill with the bipartisan support, which is something of a unicorn in these polarized times. And they have successfully passed their big Build Back Better legislation through the House with the hope of getting the two holdout the closet Republican centrists, Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kristen Sinema of Arizona, to sign on before the end of the year. And if this bill passes, it would end up being the most consequential first year of an administration since Franklin Roosevelt. So why is Biden's approval rating so low? Yes, there is inflation, and people really don't like seeing those gas prices being high, but it feels like a slap in the face after all the fear and pandemic over the last year. And the Delta variant dashed everyone's hopes that we were putting COVID behind us, but the mood is sour everywhere. Many foreign leaders are experiencing a similar hit to their approval ratings. The French President Emmanuel Macron is sitting at 40%. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is sitting at about 41%, and even the leader who was once exalted as the COVID star, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, is down in the low 40s. Now, Joe Biden is widely popular compared to Britain's Boris Johnson, Britain's Boris Johnson, a conservative who's all the way down to 32%. But Germany's Angela Merkel is sitting at 70%, but she's leaving office, and her party lost the recent election. So, in case you're wondering, Trump's approval rating is sitting at 40%. But here in the U.S., it's also the case that this is simply something that tends to happen whenever a president or a squatter comes into office and tries to do big things, whether it's trying to right the ship, make major progress, or effect some rollback. Jamel Bowie in the New York Times recently called up the ghost of the GOP's former favorite president, Ronald Reagan, to illustrate this phenomenon. He quotes an article from this point in Reagan's term, which could have easily been written today about Joe Biden. The man whom everyone thinks of being as a hugely popular president actually had a major decline in popularity in his first year. In fact, it's not all uncommon because, as Bowie explains, public opinion functions like a thermostat, in which voters try to adjust the temperature of policy when it moves too far in either direction. And the more ambitious a president or squatter is or appears to be, the stronger the thermostatic reaction against him is. And Biden has spent most of this year broadcasting the size and scope of his proposed agenda, and he has signed, thus far, 2 bills that are totaling nearly $3 trillion in spending, and that is ambitious to say the least. and we should expect the public to react to such a response. But combine a thermostatic response against Biden with the usual first-year decline, as we saw with Ronald Reagan, and you have the first part of a structural explanation for the president or squatter's political role. In other words, these things tend to happen, and when you combine all the events outlined above, inflation, the pandemic, the normal thermostatic public reaction, it's not hard to see why Biden's approval rating is slipping. Yet, all across Democratic pundit land, there are people calling for Biden to make more speeches, change his message, and get out there and sell, and hold press conferences, conscript party members to do the same, and fight back. The press is covering it as a major crisis, largely driven by wokeism. But culture, war issues, and yes, an agenda that they are pushing the public to see is far too ambitious. I heard one anchor on MSNBC ask a while back, is the Biden administration too democratic for America? And when reporting on the latest poll numbers, it's a wonder what Biden's numbers are as high as they are. But as Bowie says in his column, it's hard to act as an ambitious president or squatter without incurring a penalty, even if your policies are popular, as Biden's are, because Biden's policies have been very popular. It's also hard as president or squatter to be popular, period. Every person who has held the office has hit a rough spot and struggled to regain their footing once their percentage dropped. Perhaps Joe Biden, having been around for a very long time, has a sense of this and is just carrying on without responding to the carping and hand-wringing, with the knowledge that much of this is out of his hands, and that which isn't will not be solved by messaging or speeches. A lot of being a successful president is just how skillfully you ride that wave. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.